Check. 1, 2.
The D. Brief. This is the D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief, your podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. It is Wednesday, April 24th, and I am your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
And I'm Becky Scarcello.
I am the new guy in Detroit. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just dumb.
That's not true, but I am the native, and I just know everything about everything.
Right, so you're smart.
I think we're somewhere in the middle of those things.
Here's what's happening on today's show. There is a brand new comedy club in town. It's actually over at part of Ant Hall in Hamtramck. It's called The Independent, and I had an opportunity to sit down with two of the guys who are organizing this. There are 7 in total, so we'll have that conversation for you.
And I'm going to tell you about some new restaurants opening and some, unfortunately, closing.
And we've got a local distilling company, somebody that we actually interviewed a while back, and they are making an effort to save the planet. They're using a palm tree.
Very nice.
I'll tell you all about it.
On Friday, you're going to get to hear our interview with John Sauvé. He's an artist and a sculptor here in Detroit, done numerous projects. One really visible one is the Man in the City experience. That's the orange guys up on top of buildings.
The
guy
dudes
in
on
the
roof.
hat.
Right.
Yes.
So they're not snipers.
They're not snipers. It's public art.
I didn't think snipers wore orange. So that makes sense.
But you and your conspiracy theories, I didn't know what you thought. Yeah.
All right, let's meet our co-host for today's episode.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D
Brief.
I want to welcome back to the show a very, very, very funny comedian. Simply Shanell has appeared on BET's Comic View, TBS, HBO, and NBC. She's also performed for the troops in Germany, Korea, and Japan. Shanell, welcome back.
Oh, I'm glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
See, once you're doing comedy, radio's easy, right?
Yeah.
Easy. And she's not just funny, she's a pretty amazing human being. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, you work clean a lot of the time. I know we talked about this yesterday.
Yes.
That is a challenge, I think, for a lot of comedians, right?
Yes.
Was that a conscious decision on your part, or?
Well, the club I first started when I was doing open mic, if you wanted to win the $50, you had to be clean.
Oh, that was the challenge.
Yeah. You know, you can be funny with the foul language and everything, but if you look at comedy, even now I find myself, I don't watch much comedy, but I always try to remove every cuss word they say and then say, what did they just say?
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
And then
what's the nugget? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nothing. Just so you have to be more creative. And I like clean comedy because, from 3 to 103 can be in the audience, and it's just not offensive to anyone.
And what kind of things are in your act these days?
Right now, I talk a lot about me being upset with America, but I'm not going back from where I came. So I'm a lot of political, social, and just general. I love talking about family. Mm-hmm. Because everyone has a family.
Right.
So,
every family has issues.
Every family has issue. I'm sure on Sunday for Easter, a lot of families went through with aunt bringing that awful pot of mixed beans or whatever. Everyone has someone
the
that
Jell-O
always
salad.
wants to bring their favorite or their best dish, and you're the only one that likes it.
Is this one of those things where if you look around and you can't see who it is, then it's you?
It's you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that bean casserole at Thanksgiving. Am I the only one?
How about deviled eggs?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Wait,
love
no,
deviled
really?
eggs.
Yeah.
No, I like those, but it took me years too. Like when I was younger, no, I wouldn't touch them. But then I finally tried them. I was like, oh, these are good.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about performing for the troops.
Oh, I loved it.
How do you get into this?
Yeah,
What's that
how'd
like?
that happen?
Just by the grace of God. At the time, my mentor in comedy was a well-known Detroit comedian named Big Daddy Fitz.
Oh, okay.
And he wound up dying several years ago from a heart attack. But he was my mentor, and he traveled all over America. So he just started telling different promoters, like she's new, but she's funny.
Oh, nice.
And so he had passed my name on, and the first place I went was Germany. Mm-hmm. And loved it. The troops, they are so appreciative of you being there. And then when you go and, you have to sign off on a lot of paperwork from the government, because the government, you're basically being able to go as a guest of the government.
Right.
So they send you a big, thick packet with telling you the customs and what they expect. And
Wait, so give me an example of that. Like what's
cultural training.
Okay, like when I went to Japan, do not stand your chopsticks up in your food. It's a form of disrespect.
Oh, you can't
Yeah, you just don't.
Don't stick a fork in it.
I never thought to do that, but
Neither did I.
Yeah.
But
But
good
it's
to
just-
know. Yeah.
yeah, good to,
That's the main thing. Really, with the men, they didn't want you to really just look them dead in their eye. That's a form of disrespect coming from a woman.
right.
And it was just different things. When we went to Japan, actually, Mike Bonner was with me in Japan.
Oh, he was?
And Korea. And when we arrived in the airport, we were followed by their military with AK. It was so...
That's freaky.
It was
Intimidating.
so unnerving. And then we were with another comedian, and he was eating a candy bar. And I think he was from Texas or somewhere, and he just threw the candy wrapper on the ground outside the airport. You would have thought we were in the Twilight Zone. It's like everybody head just turned and looked at the paper. And Mike and I, we were so embarrassed. Like, we're representing America.
Yeah, why would you do that?
We're
Yeah.
not bums. And then we just started telling them, you're from Texas. You're from Texas. We don't do that in Detroit.
Yeah.
But it was really nice. So normally the people who book the comedy are active military personnel. You have the NSO, and you have Military Recreation and Warfare, MRW, I believe. And so I came in on that one, and I love that versus NSO. NSO is for rich entertainers who really needs the write-off.
Is that Bob Hope when you...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And they get only paid like $100 a day.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I say it's for the
It's
really
really more
established. It's for the credit and
They're doing it to give back.
Yeah,
and,
to give back.
Have
Right.
Yeah.
military
say.
recreation warfare. It's a job,
Oh, okay.
And so they pay you very, very, very well.
I don't know if this is a dumb question. Do you have to work clean when you...
No,
Oh.
Oh, okay.
No.
Did they put any restrictions on your content or?
no.
Oh, okay.
They didn't put any restriction. Was that Japan? I think in Japan, you can't bring any, you were asking me about a restriction. You can't bring like vibrators and things of that nature. It's illegal.
Really?
Really? To
Yes.
have in the
Illegal.
country?
It's illegal to bring them. You couldn't. Yeah, that was something they made. But then
Okay.
they had like,
Cross that one off the list.
Yeah.
but like in Korea, they had prostitution.
Right. Like just right at your local
Yeah,
bar.
it's just like, are you serious?
Strange.
Yeah,
Wow.
you don't bring in any playboys. They control, and I think that's because they have the limit on how many children you can have or something. I don't know what it is, but they are real strictlers about any things of that nature.
All right, so if
coming
people
across.
can't make it to Japan to see you...
yeah,
You're not
know
in the
you've-
military.
Right. I know you've got a Tuesday night room. What's going on there?
The Tuesday night is in Dearborn, Detroit border. Is 18490 Ford Road. The Ford Patio Bar and Grill. It's located right at Sawfield Freeway in between the Red Robins and the Wendy's. And I do a show every Tuesday at 9 p.m. I employ 3 other comedians. I just host the show. and it's called Let's Laugh Comedy Show because everyone needs to laugh.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we're going to do that here today. Thank you so much for joining us again on the podcast. Let's get into the show.
Debrief.
Want more? Text the word Detroit to the number 444-999.
Shanell, I assume that at some point in your career you have auditioned to be on television. Is that...
Yes, I love auditions.
Are you good at it? What do you...
Oh, yes, I love auditions.
What have you auditioned for?
I've auditioned every comedy television show I've been on. I auditioned for. I auditioned for Big Brother.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I auditioned for Nickelodeon years ago.
Okay.
I just love auditions. I go to auditions that I know I'm not qualified for.
Just
for
for
fun?
Oh yeah.
Why is it fun for you?
I just like it. I just like the intensity of
Adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's your skydiving or something.
I went to an audition for a singer and I can't hit a note. And I felt so bad because the people that were performing an audition before me, they were real singers.
Yeah.
And then it was my turn and I went in and I sung Whitney Houston.
That's like...
It was terrible. And you could hear the people that were waiting to audition just laugh. But I gave it my 100%. But I'm like, okay, y'all doing a play. You may find room for me somewhere.
So
you
just wanted to get in front of them.
Yeah, I love auditions.
Here's why I ask. Somebody did their very first television audition today. Our co-host over there.
Congratulations. How'd it go?
It was good. I didn't trip. I didn't fall. I didn't stutter. So
Did you have to sing Whitney Houston?
I didn't have to sing. I did have to speak, and I had to do sort of an improv exercise. So there was prepared materials and some on the spot, but it was only 15 minutes total.
What was it? What is this all about?
Yeah, so Deadline Detroit is doing a video series on food and drink in Detroit. So I thought, this is perfect.
Yeah, you'd be good at that.
I can talk to chefs and talk about food and drink all day, and I love the dining scene. So yeah, it was just... Come on in. You had to read a bunch of, you saw the sentences I had to read.
Oh, yeah, they were like charcuterie and...
Eclectic Epicurean
tartare.
Adventures and chimichurri.
Words I've never used in real life.
Pappardelle.
Right.
So I had to read some of those. I had to do a tweet for my most memorable dining experience. So I prepared that.
So it's a multimedia kind of role there.
I think so. And then I had to suggest titles for the show, the name of it. And then...
what did you come up with? I got to know.
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, it's a secret.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. They might pick my idea.
Hell's Kitchen.
That wasn't one of them.
Oh, no.
And then I had to say, if a friend was coming into town, where would I take him to dinner 7 nights in a row? So yeah, I have the list right here, and they were writing them down. And the producer kind of joked, she's like, "This is really just our play to get restaurant
they're
ideas."
milking you for information.
Yeah.
Like I know how that works.
Yeah, so I did all that.
You got any tips for her? What's
I
the
know.
secret to killing an audition?
I didn't even. I felt like I left there and then questioned myself.
Well, first of all, I don't know because your audition was 15 minutes.
Well, maybe me talking was 10 of that.
Every audition I've ever went to, 4 minutes and under.
Oh, wow.
Oh, then
Yeah.
you got
this
the
was
gig.
long.
No,
See, and
then
this seems so short to me, but that was long.
4 minutes. I've had one audition where it was 7 minutes.
Okay.
And most auditions are but then we're auditioning for different types of
exactly.
things.
This is,
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
I also suspect that if we heard her sing Whitney Houston, we'd think 4 minutes is a really, really long time.
Time.
Yeah.
It depends on the material. This had several different parts to it, and they were talking in between. So,
yeah, but it seems like you did. The main thing is just to be confident that you are in the right place at the right time, and you're more than prepared for the opportunity if it presents itself.
yeah, hopefully I projected confidence because I thought about that too. Like, even if you're nervous, don't act like it. But I feel like, I didn't say this, I didn't say that. But it was a great experience. And I think it's one of those things, the more you do it, then it's like, oh, okay. I got this.
All right, I know it's not television, but let's not forget you already have a job talking about
well,
food
I know.
and drink.
I was
so
like, yeah,
hop to it, will ya?
Absolutely. I'll get to my really well-paid position here at the
I'll give you a
D-Break.
20% pay increase.
Okay, so here's exciting news. So, we talk about sometimes the city of Detroit itself being a food desert, not having the grocery stores. That's improved, definitely. But what about if there were no bars? But
That'd be
even more
huge.
tragic, right?
Yes, terrible.
That's the situation Highland Park has been living in for over 20 years. No bars, no local watering holes. So they finally got one.
Why is this? It's not a dry town, right?
It's not a dry town.
No.
It's just a hot mess. In terms of leadership and, hard times. I mean, it was major automotive plants that got shuttered and just under emergency manager, just a lot of bad stuff going on. So it's coming together. They had a very young mayor, too. We were talking about that, inexperienced. So this is called the Woodward Avenue Bar and Grill. It's a sports bar, opened last Friday, Good Friday. And the owner is Lawrence Johnson. He's got a full menu of beer, wine, cocktails. You got quesadillas, mozzarella sticks, lamb chops. Kind of sounds like a little nicer bar food. And they also have a nice fenced-in patio when the weather is like today. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
So I saw the photos online, and a friend of mine is a resident of Highland Park, and she is just over the moon excited that there's a place in the neighborhood that she can get to, and it really is well done. This is not some dive bar. It's a nice, nicely decorated
I saw it
space.
on the news. It looks really inviting.
Yeah, modern and warm, and so check it out if you have the chance.
Good
Woodward
for
Avenue
Highland
Bar and
Park.
Grill. Yeah, super cool. So also in development, I love these stories when these buildings that have been sitting around, somebody really takes it over and is going to do something cool with it. So hopefully that's the case here. The Historic Shores Theater, it's at 9 Mile and Mack in St. Clair Shores. It was originally opened in the 30s. It's been purchased. It was about 13 years or so that it's just been shuttered and abandoned and, just sitting there. So the purchaser, David Hardin, he also owns the Butter Run Saloon that's there in St. Clair Shores as well. So he plans to redevelop it into a restaurant and music venue. It's going to take up to 2 years, but it sounds like a great concept.
I've definitely seen just venues around town, buildings that aren't being used. And I've never actually felt this in any other city I've lived in where I was just like, I would like to do something with that building. Like that would be.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any
Yes.
that like,
Oh, yes.
like if you could buy any building, what would you buy and what would you do with it?
I really like the Lee Plaza.
So where's that?
That's across from Northwestern High School. Well, I don't even know if it's considered Northwestern High School, but it's on West Grand Boulevard and before Dexter, and it's in the 12th, 14th Street area. But Lee Plaza is a high rise, and I've always had the concept to do a multi-generational housing.
Nice.
I wanted to call it Full Circle, where I take seniors and young mothers and just have them all live together. And I just think everybody would feed off of each other's. The young mothers would get wisdom from the grandparents. The grandparents would get energy from the children, not necessarily their grandparent, but just seniors. I just think that would be, everybody would feed off of each other. The kids would get that extra loving.
They would find out who Madonna is.
Right.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Most definitely.
Well, so many other cultures do that. I think Denmark, Finland, one of those countries, they have places like this where it's seniors and students, say college students, that need a less expensive place to live. And then you can see videos and stuff of this online. It's incredible. Everybody wins.
Yeah, everyone wins. And there's so many spots in Detroit that you could really just
turn into something.
That'd be a good one, though.
I am so sick of the basketball rims. Just do something different with these spaces.
Right. So unfortunately, a couple of closings. Le Petit Zinc, Detroit's French Cafe, the creperie place, really lovely little spot.
I've been to this place. This was the place that was in Corktown.
It was in Corktown.
Yes.
There, kind of not by Michigan Avenue, down a ways on Trumbull. A little hidden spot, but really charming. I mean, the owner splits her time between Paris and Detroit. She's got the French food down. So, but about a year ago, it had been in Corktown 2009 till about a year ago, and then dispute with the landlord type of thing, relocated to Midtown and seemed to be really doing well in the Strathmore apartment building there. But just unexpectedly on social media, they said, well, we're closing.
Wow.
So, but the statement implied that it may return in some other form. I think said something like Le Petit has exciting changes being made or something.
Now, Shanell, I know you were a longtime Corktown resident.
Yes.
How's that neighborhood changed?
I can understand she had a disagreement with the landlord.
You've been there?
I'm pretty sure the landlord wanted to triple her rent.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
I'm
Exactly.
sure long life resident of Corktown. My mother moved over there many, many, many years ago. I love Corktown. I've always loved that area because of the diversity.
Yes.
People think it's kind of new, the diversity.
No.
It's always been multicultural, the whole area.
Well, it's Detroit's oldest neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
the cobble
archaeological
streets,
digs, yeah.
we still have cobble streets in that area. But with what's going on downtown, that area is really suffering. It's growing and for certain people, but people who have been over there and established, they're kind of suffering because rent was very affordable.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, rent in that area is basically starting off at $1,200 for an apartment that people pay $400 for with no upgrading or anything. It's just that we are Corktown, Ford Motor Company done moved in.
Just the demand.
And we can, I just even look at where the barbecue place is. That used to be a Chinese food restaurant.
What is this? This is Slows?
Slows.
Yeah.
You know how many tickets I done got from parking over there? Slows came in and new development came in. And do you know the city snatched up all this? No one gets tickets now. I want my money back.
Right.
Because I've paid many tickets in that area. And it's just like, to me, it's like Detroit is accommodating people who had nothing invested in the city.
Right.
Now it's a new investment. We dealt without the street lights and, the slow services. And now it's like we can't even afford to stay where we're accustomed to. My friend, her house burnt up and she's older than me. She's over 60. She has never lived in another house and she couldn't get insurance on her house because of the area. And I don't even know where she's living now because she couldn't afford anything in the neighborhood that she's been in over 60 years. She can't afford it.
Wow.
Yeah, 'cause she lost what she owned. Yeah.
Yeah, she lost what she owned in a fire, and I don't think people paying attention to how many fires are really in the area. You just looked the other day, Wabash was flooded. That street has never flooded. Never.
Yeah, so it's like, what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
It's old stuff under them streets. You can't have people just banging.
Right.
and-
Constructing new over it. Yeah. Well, speaking of landlord disputes and this type of issue, it's also going on a lot in Eastern Market. So, the Nelsons, a father and son, have bought up over 20 buildings there. And unfortunately, this was just announced. Russell Street Deli, which has been in Eastern Market for over 30 years, is closing at the end of September because they couldn't come to an agreement on the lease with the new owner. So
Sad.
back and forth about repairing a floor, that's $50,000. And the new owners want to triple the lease, monthly lease. And it's like, so they banded together, the employees with the owners, and said, what should we do here? And they just made the decision, it's better to close. Wow. Yeah. And, they're one of those places people make like an average of, I think they start at $16 an hour, so like really fair wages for food industry. It's a community place and really one of the heart places of Eastern Market.
Yes.
It's going.
It's sad.
So, yeah. So we'll see how this all shakes out. So on the other side of things, I have some openings. Como's Restaurant, they're in Ferndale, 9 Mile and Woodward, had a run of bad, health inspections, a lot of violations. So it closed in December 2017, but Peas and Carrots Hospitality bought it up, and that's set to reopen on Saturday, May 4th.
And this is a cornerstone right there in Ferndale.
Oh, it's, just
this
a
is
centerpiece.
Prime location.
Definitely. So you can already see, I drive by there all the time, some changes to the facade, and they're, keeping the name. They're keeping it a pizza restaurant, but it'll be Detroit-style square pizza with really fresh ingredients and lots of different options. The completely new dining room is set to debut, and they call it a refreshed 80s style Miami throwback patio. So it's got that really signature patio there on the corner, so it's going to be Miami style. And inside will be the Traverse City Whiskey Company tasting room. So, and then I have a quick event this weekend, La Feria there in Midtown on Cass, and next to it they have their new wine bar. They're doing a Feria de Abril in Detroit. It's Feria in Spanish means festival or holiday. So they're doing a spring celebration, basically. And you can go this Saturday all day long, food and drink specials, and they'll have performers doing flamenco, guitar, and dance.
All right, on the way, we've got a distillery that's trying to save the planet. We'll tell you about it.
This is the Deep Brief.
Want more?
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Go to thedebriefdetroit.com.
All right, Shanell, I'm so glad we've got you here because I want to talk comedy for a moment. There is a brand new comedy club that is at Planet Ant in Hamtramck. You familiar with Planet Ant?
I love Planet Ant. I've taken several classes there.
What classes did you take there?
Improv classes.
That's what Planet Ant is known for.
Improv.
Right, is improv. And they've got a couple of buildings over there, right? They've got, I think, the original theater.
The original Purple, and then they bought the building across the street,
which has got Ant Hall in it.
Yes.
And the Ghostlight Bar.
Yes.
Is there as well. Well, it turns out that 7 comedians, local stand-up comedians, young guys, up-and-comers, got together and basically cleaned out this back room that was being used for storage or teaching or training, cleaned it up, built a stage, put in lighting, and now it's a brand new comedy club called The Independent.
Good for them.
Nice.
Well, and the idea here is that these guys, and I saw it when I dabbled, is that all these guys are running bar shows, which is where they're running stand-up comedy, because there aren't as many comedy clubs as there used to be years ago. I mean, right, like Joey's is gone, and you've mentioned several that aren't there anymore.
One mic stand.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So these guys have to put together these bar shows, and a bar show is...
It's different than a crowd. Than a comedy club.
It's a tough environment, right? It's not...
It can be. It can be. It depends on the bar. You have some bars where they know, hey, on this day is comedy, so the people are coming. But those are normally established comedy rooms, and then you have where people come and they want to drink and they want to play if they got a pool table and the darts and
or sports on the television.
That's the number one rule if you're doing it in a bar.
Yeah, you
have to be able to turn those televisions off, minus the ones at the bar, because they're going to always leave the televisions on. But it's not geared for comedy.
It's just too many distractions. You're fighting for attention.
Well, these guys, I think they did a soft opening, but they just had their grand opening last weekend. And I sat down with 2 of them, Bart Dangus and Connor Mead, local comedians. And I asked them, what is The Independent all about? Here's what they said.
It's called The Independent because this is like an independent comedy club ran by a bunch of independent comedy producers that were running bar shows in Detroit that were basically like making up the scene here. And like, yeah, bar shows are tight, but we're trying to like
get a space just for comedy.
Yeah.
Now, you know Bart Dangus, right?
Yes, I sure do. I've booked him. He's worked my comedy room several times.
Yeah, he also runs that Prankus Night, which is like a heckling show where they actually encourage heckling so that I guess comedians get better at cutting
That's
their
terrible.
teeth.
I know.
That's terrible.
I'm not going to that.
I'll go as a heckler.
Well, I would have to go and watch that show.
Yeah, so
I know Bart was doing LJ's in Corktown on Michigan.
yeah, so he's been doing a number of these shows, but he's been doing these bar shows, and they finally put it together and they said, look, there's something to be said for having a proper stage and a proper setup and people who are coming in. So they built it right there at Planet Ant, and they're doing a variety of shows. He told me about them.
So the way that we run every Friday, Saturday, 4 different shows. And it's usually like a main show, one open mic to start the night out. And then we usually have like a themed show, which is something, kind of goofy. Like we got Tonight versus Everybody.
Which that's like a panel of comics, like usually 3 comics and a host, and we find like the stupid articles and we just talk about them, make like silly put things on a projector, and then we just like all riff on it and joke about it, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
If you're familiar with Tough Crowd, it's
very
that
similar.
but worse.
So I think the idea here is that this is really a place where up-and-coming comedians can cut their teeth, because that's been, we've got a vibrant scene here in Detroit, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really needed, because the comedy clubs that we still have, basically are established. So it's hard unless you can only go up on open mic. But sometimes you want to be with a real crowd where they came to see the headliner, and you want to get up and be able to work. When you work at a bar and do a lot of bar shows, your subject matter is going to be limited.
Right.
For the simple fact, you have people talking, you may not be able to work out that joke that you wanted to work out, but a club scene, all the seating is geared towards the stage. That is the main attraction. You don't have a pinball machine going off here, and so all the attention. I think they came up with a great idea, and I think this is very good, not only just for new comics, for established comics who want to try out new material.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, look, it's over at 2320 Kniff Street in Hamtramck. They're doing shows every Friday and Saturday night right now. They're going to add some Thursday shows, too. And if you want to hear that entire conversation with Bart and Connor, that, of course, is in our mobile app. Download it, and you can hear the conversation there.
The D. Breathe.
Glad to hear about that. I'll be calling him later on this evening.
Look, want to get a quick plug in here for Michigan Podcast Productions. This is what we've been doing. We were talking about this yesterday, Shanell, that we've had so many people who have been guests on the show who have been like, look, we've been thinking about doing a podcast.
Or someone's told me to do a podcast. That I'd be perfect for it. Yeah.
So we launched Michigan Podcast Productions, and the idea is we know how to produce podcasts. It's something I've been doing for almost 9 years now, and 20 years in radio. And in particular, we're focusing on the Detroit arts and entertainment scene, because there's so many great arts and entertainment organizations here, and we think it's a great way for them to basically stay in touch with their fans.
And I'll say what we add, too, is we know how to market it, because it's great to have a podcast that's quality, but what if nobody ever hears it because you don't get it out there? So we can help from the beginning to the end.
Don't take our word for it. Go to our website, MichiganPodcastProductions.com. I've been blogging there with all sorts of tips for people who are getting into podcasting. You can read them there. And if you're interested, reach out to us and let us know.
Welcome to the D.
Detroit's
Arts and entertainment scene.
All right, just to prove that you're not the only one who can talk about food and drink. There was a story that caught my eye this week, which is Valentine Distilling Company. We, of course, had Rufino Valentine on the podcast a while back. Great interview.
It was awesome.
This is the place over in Ferndale. You know that white building? It's got the woman is sitting in a circle there.
Okay, yes.
That's the Valentine Distilling. That's their tasting room,
Tasting room,
right?
yes.
So where you can go in and you can sample the liquors. And they are setting out to save the planet, essentially. This was something that Rufino hinted at when we had him on the
He
podcast.
talked about the palm tree in their distillery facility.
Here's the idea behind the palm tree. There's a live palm tree in their facility, and it absorbs over 30 pounds of carbon dioxide every year. It was actually inspired by Embrew, which is next door, because what they do is they grow a palm tree each year, and then they move it to a sunnier climate. So it's their way of giving back, but of course you can't really
all year
grow palm
it's not
trees
gonna
here.
live, yeah.
Yeah, trust me, I'm from California. If I could grow palm trees here, I'd be growing palm trees
Yeah.
Me too.
but the last one was actually moved into Valentine's facility.
Super cool.
So anyway, they have committed over $500,000 to sustainability. This is part of a 10-year initiative. It'll save almost 5 million gallons of water. Among other things, it includes a piece of equipment that recaptures around 95% of the water that's lost during distillation and reuses that. I think
Good for them.
This is like astronauts drinking their pee, I think, is the same basic
a similar
principle.
concept.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Same
But less
thing.
gross.
Yeah.
A lot less gross.
lot less gross.
Good for them. You know, we have to be more aware of what we're doing to the planet.
Exactly.
It's real.
For sure.
I agree. I mean, the one thing I'll say is, and I'm always have mixed feelings when I see either a company or a very wealthy person, donating a bunch of money to a cause, because I always feel like this is something that we should just be required to do. Like, this is something that,
Yes.
the
Just a
government
standard
at a
business
city
practice.
or
Yeah.
state or federal level should say, look, you need to be using this equipment that, recycles 95% of the money. Like, that's
Exactly.
yeah.
it's a great thing to do, but it shouldn't be voluntary. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing it. I just wish that
I'm
That it
with
was
you on
more
that.
in place, yeah.
I'm with you on that. I think it should be required because you have the communities and citizens that's breathing and
Yeah.
walk. Yeah, I think it should be like
Yeah.
a tax.
And again, so many other countries do require certain things, and they
Right.
have much better air quality and things like that. And, it's just corporate responsibility. You can't plead ignorance anymore.
So, with that said, I think we should make a rule for everybody who listens to this podcast. You need a palm tree in your living room.
That's a great goal.
Yeah.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
All right, there it is. Show number 2. See, you can do this for a living.
That's it?
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
She's
wow.
like, where's the rest?
Well, that's not quite it. All right,
A little bit.
We have one last thing you got to do before you get out of here.
Okay.
All right, you got to play a little game. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. We're going to ask you for a series of rapid-fire recommendations. Just tell us the first thing that comes to your mind. Starting with this. Where's your favorite place in Detroit to go on a romantic date?
Belle Isle.
Ooh.
I like it.
Anything in particular you like to do over there?
I love to, where the lighthouse is, if you keep walking back, it's a little waterfall back there. And people fish, but if you keep going through the trail, you're going to wind all the way up to the golf course.
That sounds like a...
It's,
Beach is over- yeah.
Secret
it's
spot.
romantic
That's
back
good to know.
there.
It is. If you could create your own line of Detroit T-shirts, what would they say?
Put something exciting between your legs. Ride a bike.
Oh, that works. That's pretty good.
I like it.
We just had Jason Hall on the show. We should email that over to
You
him.
guys-
No, that
It's a
was
slow roll.
my dad owned a bike store.
Oh, it's already trademarked.
Yeah.
Love it.
Do you have a favorite Detroit dive bar?
Dive bar. It's no longer in existence.
What was it?
It was the Olympia. It was on Grand River and McGraw. You don't know.
I don't know.
The Olympia Stadium actually was on Grand River and McGraw, and it was a bar across the street called the Olympia. And that was my dive spot.
So now it's Nancy Whiskey's is where you hang out.
Nancy
Yeah.
Whiskey, yeah.
For sure. What was your favorite Detroit spot as a kid?
As a kid, Edgewater Park.
Oh, really? Okay.
You remember Edgewater?
No.
You never been to the
Edgewater.
amusement park? It was like the State Fair area or 7 Mile. It was
Okay.
actually in the hood.
No.
They had a wooden roller coaster.
Wow.
Yes,
I didn't know
Edgewater
it.
Park.
Edgewater Park. Oh, I would have loved it. I mean, I loved going to Boblo Island.
Yeah,
but
was a big.
That was a
yeah.
trip, though. Yeah,
but
I
see,
mean,
you
if
could
it-
catch the bus. Yeah.
Oh man, I missed out. Who's a Detroiter who you think everyone should know their name?
Sam Riddle.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Who is Sam?
He's like, what is he for real?
That's a good question.
I don't know. Someone should give me the answer. He's like a political influence.
Yeah,
I have
influencer,
no idea.
commentator.
This name
yeah.
came up before, didn't it?
Yes.
Who brought this up?
A recent guest was talking about Sam as well.
This is going to bug me now.
I know. We'll find it.
We'll get him on
I
the
don't
show.
know his exact title, but
No, it just-
he has his
Man
fingers
about
in
town.
Right.
Man
a
about
lot
town.
of little things.
What's your favorite venue in Detroit to see live music?
Nancy Whiskey's
Yeah.
all day. Yeah.
Still, yeah. I love
Nice. There it is. Now you're done.
it. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now
this.
you can retire.
You made it.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing it. Look, don't forget.
I'm going home. I'm finna start writing up my outline.
Right?
Oh, this is gonna be awesome.
You want to be a podcaster
Yeah,
now,
I
right?
wanna-
You've been bitten by the bug.
Is it expensive? It can be.
It can be.
Depends.
It depends on how you do it.
We'll talk
yeah,
more.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
work with you. We'll make it happen. A couple of things to let you know before we get out of here. Of course, we talk about a lot of stuff on this podcast. The easiest way to keep track of all that, especially if you want a list of links to the things we talk about, is to go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com. While you're there, sign up for the email, and we'll send you links every week.
Even easier, you can use your mobile phone. Just text the word Detroit to 444-999.
Thank you to Bart Dangus and Connor Mead, the comedians who sat down and talked to me about The Independent. Great way to support local live comedy is to head over there on Friday and Saturday nights. It's over at Ant Hall in Hamtramck. Go check it out. And of course, on Friday,
We've got John Sauvé. He's a local artist and sculptor.
until then, Shanell, thank you so much for coming in. One last plug for Tuesday nights. What's going on?
Ford Patio Bar and Grill on Ford Road, 18490, 9 p.m. every Tuesday. Let's Laugh comedy show hosted by Simply Shanell.
All right, Shanell, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. I
Pleasure.
enjoyed myself.
All right, until next time, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.